just for those of you who don't follow ice hockey, Larry's making a reference to a very famous statement made by the greatest ice hockey player of all time, Wayne Gretzky, who was asked, "How come you score so many goals?" And he said, "Well, I don't try to chase the puck. I skate to where the puck is going to be." And that sounds like a great idea. All you got to do is figure out where the puck is going to be, and also have the ability to get there. And Wayne Gretzky was terrific at both of those. I think that is going to be the challenge for Tasmania. We have to recognise that what's coming is highly disruptive, that it's a challenge as well as an opportunity, and there's a lot we're going to have to do to prepare. One of the things we have to do to prepare is simply to get people to use it at all. The current projection is that less than 20% of households in Tasmania will sign up, even with the fibre optic cable sticking out of the wall of their house, will sign up to use it in any way. Less than 20% see enough benefit even to plug into it. Do you have any thoughts on that? How to just, that 80% of the population who aren't like you or I, who want to be plugged into the world or just instinctively love it, what could we do to draw those people in?
Let their kids play with it. I mean, look, seriously, go back to the cell phone revolution. I mean, you think all anybody does anymore is spend time on their cell phone. It seems to be have come out of nowhere to being the dominant social activity of the human race. What they are doing, who they are talking to, I have no idea except for what I overhear in the airport, and Lord help us if that's what people think is a good use of their time. But the point is that the cell phone was developed out of Chicago for high-end business people when it was a brick, right? All the business plans said the only people that are going to buy these things are rich business guys who, you know, keep themselves rich by doing deals all the time, and so that's why they're going to need the cell phone. There was no business plan that said that teenage kids, particularly girls, were the driving economic force that was going to make fortunes for people in cell phones. And it was only when you finally, I mean, you know, even 10 years ago, would you consider buying your kid a cell phone? And now, you know, it's like tying them up and putting them in a dark room and feeding them through a keyhole in terms of what it does to their social life if they don't have a cell phone. A very short time. And I think the same will happen with the NBN. If you lead with the kids, they will know what to do with it. And particularly their social networks that they live in, except now on video, will provide a vast amount of use for the NBN that I suspect most of the NBN architects aren't taking into account. And once the kids in your house use this stuff, they'll bring you along, right? I just had my son, and I bought a pretty expensive TV about 8 years ago, and I always buy bleeding edge technology. But honest to God, I hadn't ever gotten around to hooking it up to see whether it could do HD, and my son was just home, actually literally the day I got on the plane to come over here, and I said, you know, do you have any idea whether this thing like can play high definition? And he said, oh, sure, Dad, I'll find out. And like he pulls out his little net book, you know, goes out, Googles the serial number, comes up with the complete manual for this thing online, goes in and says, well, you know, you're going to need a component cable. And I said, well, do I have one of those? And he says, well, let me see. And he sort of dives back into all the wires. Oh, yeah, you got one here. You're not even using it. And literally in like less than a half an hour, I had 1080i in full resolution on this thing. And to boot, he said, now you're going to need a Blu-ray, player, and you only got one set of component links into the back of your TV. But don't worry, I went down to Radio Shack and got you a little box, then plugged in both the current cable so that you can get the HD off the cable, and then all you got to do is go on Amazon and order the Blu-ray. And I know you're technically challenged, so I already did the research for you, and here's the best one. Just push go, and you will have to use your credit card, but I got things to do. I got some folks lined up on Facebook that I'm behind on, so that's what I do.
Are there questions that anyone would like to ask at this point?
When you spoke earlier about the fact that because the technology now allows people to easily experiencing Tasmania's environment and the same in reverse, how do you commercialise that? How do you commercialise that? So how does Tasmania benefit economically by not actually having the people come here, but still get people to experience it?
Well, so a lot of if you look at Verizon, I've spent quite a bit of time because they actually have now millions of homes that they have fiber to the home, and they got to make a buck. So I've been looking at what's their revenue plans and so forth. And what it is these high definition videos, there are all kinds of new advertising techniques that embed around the image ways of generating revenue back to Verizon. I mean, remember, for all Google has taken over the world, and the end of the day, the only way it makes money is advertising. It puts all those little advertising whenever you go to something. That's it. So the ability for you to attach revenue generation advertisement for your company in Tasmania to the eye candy that you're effectively using to attract people with money to your business who would never in a million years find that you had a business located in Tasmania, but because they want to see the beautiful pictures that they can find by using image search and other sorts of techniques, the Google, like YouTube can search for video, can bring them to your business wherever they live in the world in a way that could never happen in the physical world. That's just one example.
I've got the microphone, so I get the benefit. Peter Gartland from TasICT. I've had the benefit of hearing you speak a couple of times today, Larry, and I'm going to ask you a bit of a leading question. There's a lot of discussion about the pricing models from ISPs at the moment with the download limits and pricing models and those sort of things. Would you like to comment on how you see the future of the ISP business and how we're going to be able to take advantage of this with pricing models that might be more economical in the future?